Hey guys, I'm making this video because there is a big conjunction coming, which I feel like is going to be the biggest conjunction of 2018, the biggest, most significant transit we may feel throughout this year. So what's happening is from May 2nd until November 5th, Mars will be transiting through the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is known as the sign of exaltation for Mars. So this is good news, and Mars is going to be combining with Ketu, which is the south node of the moon. This is going to be 5 months, so this is a notable long-term transit. So Ketu, we call the headless one, is the counterpart of Rahu. And Rahu is this head that was once attached to the headless body of Ketu. So together, these two shadow planets of Vedic astrology form an axis that cuts through the zodiac. So they're always opposite to each other. And then this axis, in addition, moves in the opposite direction from all of the other regular visible planets. So we see them moving backwards through the zodiac, Rahu and Ketu. So right now, Rahu's in Cancer. When it moves signs, it's going to go backwards into the sign of Gemini. And when Ketu moves from Capricorn, it's going to move into Sagittarius. So this axis that Rahu and Ketu form is what we call the Nodal Axis. And when we have the sun and the moon join this axis, that's when we're going to get eclipses. So these shadow planets are extremely important to us Vedic astrologers, and we really like to pay attention to how they affect people's charts. This backwards motion of this axis creates a churning effect, and it becomes just really significant when we're trying to understand how it works for our natal chart or how the current transits are going to play out. Rahu signifies intense desire for worldly experience, and Ketu has only desire for liberation from the suffering of the worldly experience. Rahu drives us into the world, while Ketu lifts us out of the world and toward the divine understanding. These two planets, these shadow planets, are given co-rulership of one sign each. So most of the other planets have the rulership of 2 signs. For example, Mars rules the signs of Aries and Scorpio. But Scorpio, he shares rulership with Ketu. So Saturn is the co-ruler of Aquarius with Rahu. Saturn is associated with the element of air, and that will also apply to Rahu. And Mars rules the element of fire, which will also apply to Ketu. So Ketu gets to be a fiery energy as well. And both Rahu and Ketu tend to agitate and destabilize the signs and houses where they're sitting or where they're affecting. Rahu and Ketu moved into the signs that they're in now, which is Cancer for Rahu and Capricorn for Ketu, in August of 2017. So they move in reverse motion through this sign, and it takes about 1.5 years for them to get through each sign. So it's pretty slow. And so by January of 2019, we're going to see that axis shift into the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius. So Rahu will be in Gemini, and Ketu will be in Sagittarius with Saturn when he moves into there. So in our planetary cabinet, Mars is the general of the army, and Ketu is the army itself, the standing army, the army guys. This metaphor alone gives the sense of the potential power that can be generated by this combination. With Mars also enjoying exalted status in Saturn's Earth sign, Capricorn, we can expect the best results and highest expression of Mars's energy. We count on Mars for observation, for strategy, for protection, for strength and focus. Ketu, who takes us upward, will serve to uplift Mars even further during this conjunction. Having no specific attachment to worldly outcome, Ketu energy will support the plans and actions of Mars. Ketu affords us intuitive understanding and internal spiritual direction. The meditative prowess of Ketu creates a calm setting for the executive ability of Mars in Capricorn. So Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn, whose challenging influence makes this sign known for promoting the tenacity to work through difficult situations. Capricorn is the natural 10th sign of the zodiac and corresponds with the 10th house of the horoscope, which indicates the karma that we do in the world to support our life. The 10th house is the pinnacle of the Artha trine. So Artha is one of the 4 aims of life. So we have Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Dharma is right purpose, life purpose. Artha is the supporting of the life, material sustenance. Kama is enjoyment, and Moksha is liberation. So the first 3 aims of life need to be set before the 4th one can even be attempted. And so Artha helps us take care of ourselves. The Artha houses in the chart are houses 2, 6, and 10. So the 2nd house is where we see resources and wealth. The 6th house is where we see our struggle for physical health and sustenance. And the 10th house shows our the top expression of our action of what we do to take care of ourselves. So in a lot of cases, that turns out to be our career, what we do for work, and how we earn our money. So Mars is the chief planet we look to when we need to create and procure and protect our wealth and our health and our career path. The power and prowess of Mars has many applications. For example, military, law enforcement, building, design, medical research, farming, mechanics, engineering, mining, drilling, all kinds of heavy, hardcore work is done by Mars that helps us arrange our food, clothes, and shelter in life. So Mars transiting through Capricorn for 5 months is a lengthy transit. And this is because Mars is going to be doing a retrograde cycle, which begins on June 26th and goes through August 27th. So this is a 2-month retrograde phase of Mars, which keeps him in this same sign for a long time. We just had a similar thing with Venus being exalted in Pisces for quite a while toward the beginning of the year of 2018. And then, so Mars is going into Capricorn. He's going to pass by Ketu and then go into retrograde. He's going to reverse past Ketu again. And then when he resumes forward motion on August 27th, he'll go 3rd time past Ketu. And that is around the vernal equinox time, so which is September 20 to 22nd. So after that, Mars will create space between Ketu and move toward his next sign, which is Aquarius. So he's getting to Aquarius on November 5th. So this 2 months retrograde period of Mars could be quite intense. An exalted planet that gets into a retrograde status, which is generally good. It promotes exalted status promotes good behavior from a planet, especially Mars. And so the retrograde addition into that recipe could make Mars a little struggling to do the right thing. So there could be some intensity that comes through that retrograde cycle of Mars from June 26th to August 27th. And also, we want to look at Saturn. Saturn is the lord of Capricorn. It's the ruler of the sign of Capricorn. And Saturn is going to be retrograde for this entire transit of Mars and Ketu through Capricorn, combination of Mars and Ketu. So Saturn got into retrograde motion April 17th, and it will resume direct motion September 6th. So this entire 5-month period of Mars and Ketu together in Saturn sign is riding on top of Saturn also being retrograde. And it just makes it complex to analyze how this transit could affect us individually and collectively. So depending on the role of those planets and signs involved with this transit, as well as your personal planetary and sign periods, the Mars and Ketu experience from May to November could manifest differently for each person. A common thread is the potential for harnessing a great deal of power and focus to the ends of accomplishing significant work that requires planning, discipline, and forbearance. Mars, Ketu, and Saturn are not social planets. So we may be feeling and applying this intense power potential in a really private, personal, internal way rather than externally. So, if you have a metaphorical cave to get into and get to work, or do meditation or practices or writing a book or whatever it is that you're applying this energy to, this may be sort of a private experience for people on an individual level. Another thing to mention is that during this Mars-Ketu conjunction, while Saturn is retrograde at the same time, we're going to be experiencing our second set of eclipses for 2018. So when the sun and the moon align with the Rahu-Ketu axis, which happens about twice a year, we get a couple of eclipses on each of those meetings. So generally we see the eclipses coming in pairs. One solar eclipse, one lunar eclipse. But this summer we get 2 partial solar eclipses and 1 total lunar eclipse. So the partial solar eclipses happen July 12th, 13th, depending on your time zone in relation to the international dateline, and August 11th. So partial solar eclipses. So last August we had that big old total solar eclipse. We're not getting that this summer, but we're getting 2 partial solar eclipses and 1 lunar eclipse, which is a total lunar eclipse, and that'll be July 27th, 28th. So end of July, right in the middle of that retrograde period of Mars, you have to understand. So right in the middle, that total lunar eclipse happens. So the July 13th, the partial solar eclipse, the sun and the moon are still going to be in Gemini. So they're close enough to Rahu to make a partial eclipse, but not close enough. Even they're in different signs. And then the total eclipse of July 27th will be dramatic. We have the sun joining retrograde Mercury and Rahu in Cancer. And then on the other side of the zodiac, we have the moon with the retrograde Mars and Ketu in Capricorn. So that could be kind of an intense eclipse time as well. And then the August 11th partial solar eclipse is seeing the sun and the moon and retrograde Mercury again joining in the late degrees of Cancer, but still far enough away from Rahu that it's only partially eclipse effect. And so that's the general background. What I want to do now is go through each sign and give you guys an idea of how this Mars-Ketu combination may affect each sign, because a lot of people know their charts and they want to know, how does this apply to me? So we'll start with Aries. All right, now we're going to look at each of the signs individually to see how this Mars-Ketu conjunction will affect each sign. So the charts you're seeing are for Washington, D.C., June 26th, 2018. So it's just a few hours after Mars begins its retrograde cycle. And this is showing Capricorn rising. So It's about 10:30 at night, Washington, D.C. So at that time you can go out and watch Mars rising over the eastern horizon if you wish. So the left side shows our South Indian style chart. The right side shows our North Indian style chart. So giving both of these in case people have different preferences. So we'll start with Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is ruled by the planet Mars. So Mars is the ruler of the first and eighth houses for Aries. And Ketu joins Mars as the co-ruler of the eighth house. And then the two of them will be ending up in the 10th house from Aries. So for Aries people, we may be seeing a lot of reorganization and restructuring, new plans having to do with career. The 10th house is the house of career, and Mars being the ruler of the rising sign for Aries and located in the 10th house in exaltation, with the added benefit of Mars ruling the 8th house of transformation, we could see Aries really going deeply into restructuring the work that they do, the career. There may be a different branch that's happening, or reversing directions and trying something new. At any rate, a deep transformation in the work environment could be in order for Aries. And then our second sign of the zodiac is Taurus. It is ruled by the planet Venus. For Taurus, Scorpio is the 7th house, which is the house of relationship and partnership and how we interface with other people. So Taurus, being ruled by Venus's energy, is generally a social sign. And the interesting part of being a Taurus is that the 7th house is ruled by Mars and Ketu, which can create some depth and intensity in relationship. So these 7th house rulers are moving to the 9th house for Taurus. And so what we can see is this is a very good combination. When an angular ruler goes into a trinal house, which is what's happening, it's a very powerful combination. So for Taurus, we could see some real energy and movement and depth happening in the realm of relationship and life purpose. So for the Tauruses, they may be going very deeply into making big commitments or making big changes that affect their whole entire life path. And then we have Gemini. Gemini is the third sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury has a very flexible nature and lots of skills, and Gemini people tend to have a lot of activity and enthusiasm in their lives. So for Gemini, the 6th house is Scorpio, and that is so their 6th house, which is the house of health and disease and work and service and friendship and enemies, is ruled by Mars and Ketu. And those two end up in the 8th house of Gemini. So the 6th and the 8th houses have the reputation for being sort of difficult houses. And so for Gemini, this 5-month period may show some real work that has to be done, either like on a physical level with health, or considering how they're spending their energy. Is it beneficial or not? Am I being with the right people? What kind of changes do I need to make? So this period of time could be a great period of time for Gemini if they're in the mood to do some real deep work. Really good time to undertake a meditation practice or refine the health through foods and exercise and that kind of thing. So the Gemini people may be going through a lot of intense work during this time. And then Cancer is our 4th sign of the zodiac. It is ruled by the moon. And from Cancer, Scorpio is the 5th house. The 5th house we associate with children and creative issue and entertainment. So it's a positive house. It's one of the trines of the zodiac, 1, 5, and 9 are the trines. So it's the 5th house ruler going into the 7th house. So a lot like Taurus, they're getting this benefit of a very powerful yoga that puts in this case, a trine lord into an angle. So for Cancer, this could be a really amazing time. It might have a lot to do with changes with how the household is because of children. It could have something to do with relationship, especially. I mean, this Mars-Ketu combination is coming up in the 7th house for Cancer. So there may be some really deep consideration of how the relationships are working for Cancer. It may have something to do with creative blocks being broken through and removed. So I would encourage the Cancer people to really go deep within and see how their creative process is going, and that might help break through even problems with relationships. So for Cancer, this could be a very interesting 5 months. And then Leo is the 5th sign of the zodiac. It is ruled by the sun. And from Leo, Scorpio is the 4th house. So the Mars and Ketu are the rulers of Scorpio, and they're therefore ending up in the 6th house for Leo. The 4th house we associate with the home, the mother, happiness, general contentment. These are 4th house matters. So with the 4th house rulers going into the 6th house, the Leos among us may be deeply considering the status of their home and whether it's good for them or not. They may be considering buying or selling property. It may be a very good time for that. So especially if you wanted to convert property into fluid money, this might be a good time. Mars rules the land that we buy, and Ketu rules the buildings that we build up onto these lands. So together, Mars and Ketu have a lot to do with real estate and property. And Leo can be a natural sign that has pretty good luck with properties. So this could be an interesting time in that sense for Leo. Also, just on a less material sense, with Mars and Ketu ruling the state of mind and then going into Capricorn in the 6th house, the Leo people among us may be very deeply soul-searching about, how can I find happiness? What is making me happy? What is not making me happy? Is food affecting my health? Is my mental state affecting my health? These may be things that Leo wants to consider during this time. Then we have Virgo. Virgo is the 6th sign of the zodiac. It is also ruled by Mercury. It's Mercury in its earth guise rather than the air guise, which is Gemini. So Virgo has Scorpio being the 3rd house from it and Capricorn being the 5th house from it. So the 3rd house has to do with our will and our energy and our vitality and how we use our hands. And it's also associated with communication and writing. So the 3rd house rulers, Mars and Ketu, for Virgo, are going into the 5th house of creative issue. What a great time, perhaps, for Virgo people to launch a writing project, especially one that has to do with the subjects of that are dear to Mars's and Ketu's heart. So, maybe not a romantic book, but something that maybe could be anything from a spiritual guidebook to a technical manuals. So Virgo may be able to utilize this time very intensely for doing work or perfecting certain practices that they use with their hands. It could be a good time literally for gardening. It could be a really good season for the Virgos to get all their plants to grow. So that's a positive thing. And then Libra is our 7th sign of the zodiac. It is ruled by Venus. It's an air sign that's ruled by Venus. And currently we have Jupiter occupying Libra, which is notable. And Jupiter tends to cause growth and positive things. As you can see in this chart, the JP that's in the Libra has a line under it. The lines mean that the planets are retrograde. So at this moment, when Mars has just gone retrograde, we still see Saturn retrograde and Jupiter retrograde. So there's a lot of retrograde energy at this moment here in late June of 2018. But for the Libras who are expecting a lot of growth because Jupiter's there, they may be a little frustrated during this retrograde time of Jupiter because it could have slowed down somewhat or totally. And so from Libra, Scorpio is the 2nd house of resources, and Capricorn is the 4th house of home and mother and happiness and contentment. So we may find the Libras among us also considering the idea of property, real estate, and finances and how they may relate. So Libra people may also be looking to maybe liquidate assets that are property and or the reverse. Investing in real estate may be something that the Libras among us might consider during this time. The 2nd house also has to do with family. And so there may be family issues that the Libras are encountering during this time. Then we've come right to Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Ketu, and those two will end up in Capricorn, which is the 3rd house from Scorpio. So this transit directly affects the Scorpios among us. And so the rulers of the self are ending up in the 3rd house. Again, for the Scorpios, we may find energy going toward communications in the sense of writing or speaking, because the 3rd house is associated with communications. It's also general skills with the hands. So this could be a fabulous time for the Scorpios to really apply themselves and practice new skills and learn new things. Again, writing is coming up for Scorpios, and it could be, again, like I mentioned for Virgo, something along the technical manual line or spiritual subjects. So we could see Scorpio really, really maximizing the potential of this transit. It could be very powerful for the sign of Scorpio. And then Sagittarius is our 9th sign of the zodiac. It is ruled by Jupiter. Now, from Sagittarius, Scorpio is the 12th house. So we think of the 12th house as the house of loss, expenses, and liberation. So generally, it's where the things go out of our life, for good or ill. So for Sagittarius, Mars and Ketu are ruling this domain of life, the house of loss and liberation. And then those two are ending up in the 2nd house, which is the house of resources. So for Sagittarius, we may see some very pronounced losses that become gains in a way. Maybe it is the sense of liquidating assets, real estate again, that becomes more of a liquid asset in your hand rather than property that's fixed. Sagittarius, Jupiter's positive fire sign. Also, we have to note, has that Saturn in it right now. For this entire transit and until January of 2020, Saturn is going to be sitting in the sign of Sagittarius. So with Jupiter's general nature, we expect growth and positivity. So Sagittarius is an environment of Jupiter. With Saturn placed there for this 2.5-year transit, we may see a slowing of growth or a stabilizing of growth. And so this Saturn in Sagittarius is a significant thing to know right off the bat. But then when we factor in the Mars and Ketu energy, having to do with, ruling the 12th house and then ending up for 5 months in the second house, for Sagittarius, we could really see some deep reorganization of the finances, I'd say. It could be a good time to really cut bait on what's not working financially for the Sagittarius people, and putting the power and energy into what is working and what is feeding them rather than what's causing them to spend. So, and it might involve some discipline, which is difficult for Jupiter-ruled signs to muster sometimes. So this would be a good time for Sagittarius to really buckle down and make some changes if need be. And then we have Capricorn itself, where this transit is going to be happening for 5 months. So for Capricorn, Scorpio is the 11th house of gain. And Capricorn would be the house of the self. So we're having the 11th house rulers coming into the first house. This could be quite positive for Capricorns, actually. It could show after a long time of work, maybe some gains finally being accrued. That said, Ketu sometimes makes it hard to see that these things are actually happening. And it could be a final press or a final push for Mars to really accomplish something that's been started a long time ago. So Capricorn stands to get a lot of work done during this transit, and with the help of Mars and the discipline and focus that Mars and Ketu are going to bring. So this could be quite positive for Capricorn. And then Aquarius is our 11th sign of the zodiac. It's co-ruled by Saturn and by Rahu. And for Aquarius, Scorpio is the 10th house. So it's the house of career and work. So with Mars and Ketu ruling the 10th house, and Ketu having that energy of change and reversal, detachment, so these 10th house rulers going into the 12th house, for Aquarius, we may see them shrugging off certain parts of their work that are no longer serving or that they feel completed with. Aquarius may use this 5-month period to really let go of what is finished as far as work goes. And so there may be some deep thought about how to move forward for the Aquarius people among us. There may be some loss that actually feels quite liberating, and some inspiration that they can use their skills in a new way. So that's what we might see for Aquarius. And then finally we've got Pisces. Pisces is our 12th sign of the zodiac. It's also ruled by Jupiter. So for Pisces, Scorpio is the 9th house of life purpose and higher knowledge. And these two planets, Mars and Ketu, rulers of the 9th for Pisces, are going to be moving into the 11th house of gain and groups. So the Pisces among us may feel inspired to go back to school or get further training in certain, whatever their chosen field is. So this could be also a really positive time for the Pisces among us. The 11th house is a strong house and shows gains from having worked for a long time. So the Pisces have that chance at this for this 5 months to maybe put the cherry on top of long-standing projects. Could feel really fulfilling. Now that's my take on a little bit for each sign. If you want to go deeper, I would suggest finding an astrologer to talk to you about it. But in general, we have to just understand that this is a lot of power that Mars and Ketu are generating with this long 5-month transit. So I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the Mars and Ketu time. It may be a little intense, but just know that it's coming and try to apply yourself in the best way for you. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.